and include an expression of thanks for the tremendous and really kind help that people have given me along the way. And there are several who just, in addition to my wonderful daughter and granddaughter with whom I live. And then I would also want to say something about the other people who are nominated. One of my friends pointed out when she saw the nomination, she said, boy, you are up there with a lot of hard hitters. And I realized that. That means, of course, that I can't count on the fact that I might win, but I would certainly want to acknowledge that. And because we are all social distancing at the time of this recording and at the time that we would have had Malice, can't really go out to dinner and celebrate, but I think we could probably order in a bottle of champagne.
If you win, we will toast you here
and put you on our social media and make sure
thank you.
You get the accolades you deserve. Are you working on any new books that you'd like to tell our listeners about?
Of course, there's always another story. I have another series that I've been working on that is more of a traditional mystery, cozy, with female protagonist who's a professor. I'm a retired professor, so you draw on what you know. There's a good market for the academic mystery that I've been working on for a while. And then I'm working on a story that really was commissioned in the sense that as a retired professor and researcher, it came very natural to me to pilot the books before I finish them. And I know a lot of authors take them out and read them to kids or whatever, and I place them in some different classrooms, with different demographics of kids. The first book was read in a mixed, diverse public school here in Baltimore County. They read that with their teacher without me being there to interfere or to lead their liking it or not liking it. And then with a private school in Virginia. So in both cases, there were children who were very frustrated when the historical fiction suddenly moved into the fantasy. And one response was, you can't do that. We were going here and now you're taking us there. Well, I always love we were going here and suddenly everything changes, but that's the adult me. So I realized that I needed to give them an advance organizer early in the book so that I didn't surprise them in the way I might have if I'd been focusing on writing it for an adult audience. I'd had a dog on the journey, and some of the kids liked the dog better than anybody anyway, but the dog was just a kind of an ordinary dog, Old Shep. And a friend suggested that maybe Old Shep could be a time traveler. And so I bring that in immediately so they know that there's something afoot. And that seemed to make the difference. But some of the mail I got from the kids, letters they wrote to me, and then I met with the classes, they said, okay, for your next book, would you please go all the way to California? So I thought, okay, that's an assignment. And I really actually took that as a tremendous compliment to think that they would be so engaged in the actual history of life on the trail that they would want to go all the way to California. It's exciting. It's a tremendous challenge because so much of the life on the trail was just day-to-day tedium. And there were moments of wonder, moments of thrill and excitement, newfound friends, the kind of frustrations of daily living. There were moments in which they had to learn how to get on without not just their old environment, but with basics. And there were tragic things that happened. The greatest threat to travelers from the beginning of the Great Migration was not Native Americans. The American Indian had more to fear in many respects. That's not to discount the fact that there weren't terrible and sometimes bloodletting skirmishes and tragedies on both sides. But it was smallpox and cholera that were the great enemies of those travelers west. And I do bring that in to the Black Alabaster Box, the first book in the series. How do I do that and it not just be on and on and on, plodding through, what are the points that we want to hit? How can I lace a plot underneath that that's not fantasy, but that incorporates elements of surprise and mystery in ways that are age-appropriate and fun, basically for anyone? I don't recommend the trilogy for anybody under at least 10 years old. And I don't just simply because of the human drama that's engaged in. I mean, it's one thing to read Harry Potter, and a lot of people say, oh, my child's ready for this because they loved Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a wonderful series. J.K. Rowling very deliberately released those books year after year as the kids grew up in her story. But it's also completely fantasy, and the children know it's fantasy. But when you're reading something that feels real and people that you love die, that's pretty hard. I had a couple of instances where people have said they aren't really taking to it. And I said, just put it down. Don't read it until later, because it really is, not every book is for every child to start with. And then I do think you have to be careful about choices for younger children. Anyway, I'm busy on a couple of new things, juggling things at once, and that keeps it exciting and challenging and fun.
All right, Frances. Well, we're going to wrap things up here, but before we do, would you like to share your website with us so our listeners know where to find you?
Yes, I can be found at www.schoonmaker. It's schoonmaker.com. fschoonmaker.com. If you have trouble finding it, just type in the Last Crystal Trilogy and it'll be one of the sites that comes up.
Perfect.
Well, thank you all. This was great fun. It was lovely to meet you. And of course, any author is always glad to talk about their books.
We have a large audience that have children in that age group, so we're hoping they take the time to check your books out.
Let me also note my oldest fan is 92.
Wow. Anything about history, we just absolutely love.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We hope that you stay safe and we eventually get to meet you maybe at next year's Malice.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you, Frances. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and bye for now.
And good luck with the Agathas.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
Well, I find it very exciting that the Agathas are now awarding a children/young adult award. Apparently, they're the only ones who do so. I think that's true.
I don't know of any. Edgar's don't. I know that.
But at any rate, I think it's very exciting because, as we all can attest to, all of us started our love of mystery as children.
I have fond memories of tearing through my Nancy Drews and could not wait to start the next one. We developed quite a relationship with children's author Cynthia Cerisi. I'm so thrilled with that community. I'm so glad that we have now added Frances Schoonmaker to our fold.
What I found interesting about Frances's books were that they're not just mystery books. They are, of course, geared towards younger, I think middle grade readers, but it includes history, some fantasy, and of course the mystery. So I think that her books would appeal to a very large audience.
So if you have children in that age group, check out Frances Schoonmaker.
Frances's website is fschoonmaker.com, and that's FSCHOONMAKER.com. Well, our newsletter for April 2020 just came out. Of course, you all must go to our website at itwasadarkandstormybookclub.com and sign up right now to get that newsletter, because we are including short stories in the newsletter now. And this month's was very fun. It was called Close Call by Vicki Earle. Vicki Earle lives on a small farm where the horses come first. Somehow, Vicki and her husband Martin raised 2 active sons. It's a miracle they survived the adventures of country life. Writing is a lifelong passion. Vicki writes a mystery series called The Meg Shepherd Mysteries. She has a website, VickiEarleAuthor.blogspot.com. Vicki is VICKY. Earle is EARLE.
And if you would like to join Vicki in adding your short story, you can send us an email at darkandstormybookclub@gmail.com with the subject line short story submission. We would love to include your story as well.
And thanks to Desmond Ryan for putting us in touch with Vicki.
This is a very exciting time for us. We are celebrating our 2-year podiversary. Yay!
It's kind of bittersweet because we can't celebrate together because of the coronavirus.
Last year we toasted champagne, and this year I'll lift my coffee to you.
I have my cup of tea.
We thought we would take this time to mention some memorable moments, and then at the end, I'll go over some of the top episodes of the past year.
As I was going through our long list of interviews and podcasts over the year, it occurred to me how many local authors that we interviewed. We are located in Maryland. We're kind of spread a little bit throughout the Baltimore metro area, a little bit north of there and a little bit east of there. We have a lot of Maryland authors, apparently, that are very talented. A few of them are David Reichenbach. He wrote The Hunt for the Beltway Snipers, which we all can remember very well. We were all worried and scared. It kind of like had the same atmosphere as this time period, as a matter of fact.
Yes, we hunkered down then as well.
Yeah. Keita Brotman wrote An Unexplained Death. We also interviewed Laura Lipman. She wrote Lady in the Lake this year. Bruce Goldfarb is the author of 18 Tiny Deaths. This one is near and dear to our hearts because we've been big fans of Frances Glessner Lee for many years. I think finally Frances Schoonmaker, who is the author we're interviewing today, she's also living in Baltimore, so another local girl.
And then we had some really big names this year, too. We had
Susan Elia Macneil,
Charles Todd, Ann Hillerman, and Nevada Barr.
We have had an amazing year. I am so happy every day that we took on this podcast because we have gotten to do some very amazing things. I think top of all of our list was last year getting to go to Malice Domestic. We got to go shoulder to shoulder with some of our favorites. They were so welcoming. You've read these people your whole lives, just have a conversation with them.
And we met quite a few new authors we didn't know. Always excited to have new authors to read.
And we're going to close this out with listing the top episodes for this past year.
Number 5.
Paul Haynes, I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
Oh, not surprising.
Number 4.
Laura Littman.
That was a good episode. That was the first one I did by myself.
Yes, and you did an excellent job.
Yeah.
And a hometown girl. Number 3.
I was so happy that this gentleman made our list because he was one of my favorites last year, Steve Hockensmith.
He's one of my favorites every year.
He's such a fun person.
Yes, he was. Number 2.
Hannah Dennison.
Oh.
Very good.
Hannah is our only one on this top 5 list that is a cozy writer.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Drum roll, please.
Number 1.
Susan Elia Macneil.
Yay.
Wow, that's wonderful.
She's one of my very favorite authors.
And,
I look forward to her Maggie Hope books every time they come out.
well, obviously our listeners do too, because she not only came in as number 1, she came in number 1 by almost double.
Wow.
That's interesting. Well, it's been a great year.
And we hope that some of the authors that are listening to this podcast, maybe you'll make the list next year.
Trivia.
Last week's question was, Robert Galbraith is the nom de plume of which best-selling author? A, Mary Higgins Clark, B, James Patterson, C, J.K. Rowling, or D, J.D. Robb? And the answer is C, J.K. Rowling. Congratulations to all the people who got the answer right.
And this week's question is, and I bet nobody, even my 2 co-hosts, know the answer.
We've been challenged, Kathy.
Yes.
Malice Domestic began in 1988. Who won the very first Agatha Award for a mystery novel? A, Joan Hess, B, Sharon McCrum, C, Nancy Picard, or D, Carolyn G. Hart?
Oh, those are all 4 really good ones.
That's right.
And you're right, I don't know the answer.
And you'll find out next week.
The month of April has been put aside, as you might have guessed, for special recording for Malice Domestic. We were all very excited to go to Malice this year again. As you may or may not know, it has been canceled this year The news we have heard from Sean Riley Simmons is that next year will be a combination of 32 and 33, and they are going to do something special for those authors who win the award this year at next year's convention. Now, stay tuned and visit Malice's website because